May Day marks the day that tens of thousands of low-paid workers around the world take to the streets to demand higher wages, better benefits, and improved working conditions. Now, in Bangladesh, the day holds added significance as protesters recently took to the streets to demand workplace safety and, get this, the death penalty for the owner of a garment factory building that collapsed last week. The collapse killed 402 people and injured over 2,500, making it the worst industry disaster in the country's history.
So who are they pressuring?
That's a good question. I think they're pressuring the government because the government has a very particular relationship to industry that's even tighter than it is here in the United States. So they want workplace conditions that are better, but they're also going straight to the streets, to the bosses, demanding that they do something different. I've seen the inside of those garment factories.
You have?
Yeah, and they are absolutely awful. I mean, it's beyond sweatshop proportion.
Like, talk to me about it. Like, the buildings themselves are crumbling, or they're just the working conditions?
Yeah, buildings are crumbling. Not much ventilation. As close as I'm sitting to you right now, imagine me working with dangerous materials and chemicals sitting next to you as close as I am, and there's 8 other people equally close along the line of this couch. All of that's happening at the same time. Then you have the age issues, combined with the
meaning people who are very young.
People very young and people who are very old, whose bodies are particularly vulnerable to chemicals and closeness, physical proximity. And then on top of that, there's very few exits. So if the building catches on fire and you have 400 people running down 20 flights of steps, with no windows, very little ventilation, not necessarily fire extinguishers. I mean, there's so many levels of badness here. It's really awful, and it needs to change. But the change, I think, doesn't just come from Bangladesh. It should come from here because we're the ones who benefit from.
And by that, you mean the U.S. government in terms of our trade negotiations, or you mean us as U.S. consumers?
I think both. I mean, the United States government hasn't really demonstrated much interest in shifting labor regulations in other places, particularly like Latin America. We see sneaker companies having situations like this all over the world. But I think we as consumers have to say, I'm willing to pay 10 extra bucks for my sneakers. I'm willing to pay an extra 10 cents for this, USB drive if I can get people better conditions.